Hello there, I'm Big Alias. Good evening. I wasn't going to make a video, I really wasn't going to. But recently, having made that video about everything in its right place, I started listening to Radiohead again, which I should never do. And I will tell you right now that I'm not sure what my attitude in this video is going to be. It's probably going to be a little bit more somber. They really do have a major effect on me, but I felt that I had to finally do it. I've been talking about doing this for a long time on this channel, but I finally want to talk about Kid A and describe in depth, using an entire video, why the album is so special, why it's so incredible, why it's considered one of the best albums ever made by many people, myself included. I will say that it's not my favorite album ever made. I don't ever want to mention that yet, given that I'm doing music reviews now. But yeah, it's definitely in my top 5. And I would understand if you were to make a claim for it being the best album ever made. I'd be on board with that. The personally speaking, I think it should at least be in like the running for best album ever made, like the top 5 or something like that. It is such a special album, and so unlike any other that coming away from it, you sort of start to compare other albums to it, and it becomes very difficult. Although it's it's a very overwhelming task to listen to this album. Firstly, you will not get it the first time. You won't understand. You need to take time with this album and understand it and realize what's going on there. And do you know what? I'm going to do that now. I'm going to help you with this. I'm going to help you through Kid A, and I'm going to help you navigate it. So, in 1997, Radiohead made an album called OK Computer, and I say that as though people don't actually know what that album is, because I think at this point a lot of people wouldn't. You've probably heard songs like Karma Police, Paranoid Android, and stuff like that. They all came from OK Computer. It's considered a masterpiece. It was their big breakthrough album following the Bends, and it was just, they were receiving unfathomable, unquestionable praise for OK Computer. People were telling me, this is one of the greatest albums ever made, and you guys are geniuses. And following the huge success, it became very overwhelming for the band, and they effectively imploded in on themselves due to the vast success of OK Computer. What do you do next? Where do you go from here? What can you do following an album like that? And so they imploded, and narratively speaking, and I can't even quantify another plane whereby this would be the case. They were reborn, and they were reborn into Kid A to tell the story of birth, life, and death, all in one package, all in one album. This is the most be-all, end-all album I've ever heard in my entire life, and I've heard a lot of albums. It opens with everything in its right place. So I'm going to go through each of these songs and explain to you, personally speaking, these are of course all of my interpretations, although this is based off of a lot of research and time spent with the album. I've heard this album thousands of times. I want to explain to you what, to me at least, each of these songs represents and means, and why this is such an expansive retelling of the very process of life, birth, and death. And I mean that in the sense of just human human being. The reason it's called Kid A is because it's this notion of just a human being, just a person. They followed this up with Amnesiac, which had, trapped like sardines in a can. They were going through a phase of like, these are just people, and we're just constructed in the same way. We're just humans that exist in this plane of existence. A lot of it is tied to like, I'm a human, not a number, Allah the prisoner, or, when you're given your little work card that has your number on it. So we open with everything in its right place, which is of course about the construction of a human being. Get every piece together, every cog, every screw, put it all together and create everyone equally. It has the vibe of a conveyor belt creating a human being attached to it. Kid A is the birth of a human. It has a very lullaby, it's exceptionally soft tone to the song, and at times it comes through with that very lullaby sense. We have the sounds of the baby crying towards the end, the very soft ending, and the fade out into the whiteness of existence and reality. And then we're immediately thrown into the national anthem, which is the forced sense of unionship and representation and attachment to a system that has provided you a sense of identity. And of course it turns into turmoil, because you're like, well, free me from this. I'm already stuck in the system where I'm told who I am and who I am to be. How to disappear completely follows that, that sense of wanting to break out, and it ruptures into a sense of out-of-bodiness and a forced sense of isolation, and using that forced sense of isolation to float through life and not be present in order to not feel the very strenuous, very intense aspects of life. Tree Fingers is a intermission. Optimistic is about the forced optimization and convincing yourself that everything is going to be okay, because what else can you do? You can't just stay in this forced sense of isolation. You have to try to power through. So you tell yourself that, you know, you're being optimistic and you can get through it. In Limbo, though, is the continuation of the sense of confusion. I mean, I'm trying to feel optimistic, but I can't do it. How can I do it in a world where I want to disappear completely, and my sense of self has already been predetermined via everything that's right place in Kid A, you know, being constructed in this way. And Idiotech is confusion, a very intense sense of confusion, very, very intense. And of course fear-mongering, which then adds to that sense of confusion. You already don't know what to do with yourself and what you are doing and what you're supposed to be doing, and you're constantly being attacked from all sides with fear-mongering and confusion in order to just exacerbate those things. Morning Bell is the coming home, the realization in the narrative. It's the falling apart of everything and the divorcing yourself aspect, and not just divorce in the sense of a relationship, but divorcing yourself overall. It's a bit metaphysical, this one. They talk about splitting the kids, you know, and stuff like that, but ultimately that's you divorcing yourself from this reality. And what can I do? I'm confused. I'm trying to self-isolate, but should I be? And I'm just going to fall apart and divorce myself from this. Motion picture soundtrack is in a sense of Limbo. I know we've already had in Limbo, but it's a sense of like, okay, this is it, roll credits. It's time to go, it's time to end. I've divorced myself from this reality. I'm too confused. I've had no control, no sense of self, no sense of agency throughout all of this. Roll the credits. It's motion picture soundtrack. And Untitled is the afterlife. It's over. I made it to the end. And how was the journey? And that's the album. And it's, I mean, just reading that, just going through it is, I mean, I connect myself so well with this album, so strongly with this album, and I think a lot of us do. It's such a relatable experience. I think it's a depiction more than anything. It's not telling you that you're not alone. It's not offering you a way out. It's just a depiction. And this is their life, and it's the life, and that's Kid A.
The PlayStation is only $149, and you can also get leading titles.